Wars are currently taking place all over the world every single day. And I'm not talking about the one that we see on the news every night, but I'm talking about something that we all partaking in without even knowing. And that's the gender war. Today on the discussion table, we're going to be talking about the feminine movement and the masculine movement and how it's affecting our males and females of our current generation. You see, on both sides of the table, on the masculine side and on the feminine side, both movements talk about three things: get your money up, sleep with as many partners as you want, and just live for yourself. And it's kind of crazy when you hear this because when we look at Hebrews, and it's kind of crazy. Sometimes I feel like when I'm reading Hebrews or any literature from the early church fathers, it's like they knew exactly what we was going to face. Like when we look at Hebrews 13, 2 to 4, it points out three things. Number one, keep on loving each other as brothers. Do not forget to entertain strangers. By doing so, some have even entertained angels without even knowing. That's one. Number two, marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral. And number three is keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. Now, why is this so out of this world and just amazes me so much? You see, all three things on both sides of the fence, masculine side and the feminine side, both are teaching the same thing, just to a different audience, and it's built on everyone's pride. And that is why we're always going to have a continual downward spiral until both sides are completely destroyed and we have a nation that's basically dead and everyone's just burning in hell because they spent so much time fighting something that wasn't even there, that didn't even need fighting at all. So what are you supposed to do? Get a job. You know what, let me rephrase it. You're a man, you've done school. Number one, get right with God. Number two, get a job. Work your way up until you can successfully provide for a family, get a house. And that doesn't mean you get to be absent from your family's life. No, but in fact, you need to run things. You need to be a leader. And when I say leader, I don't mean a war general or a president. I mean being kind, loving, patient leader as Christ was. I mean, he even says it himself. Love your wives as Christ loved the church. And when we look at this, we see that the world is heavily mistaken what a leadership is supposed to do. This is why in the masculine movement, you will have guys that are working extremely hard, providing for family, but are absolutely absent. And then you have a family who's is just going down. They might be financially strong, but in other senses, they're just going down entirely. And number two is about marriage. Now, on both sides of the fence, we just told that we don't need to marry and that, well, you are valued based on how many partners you have and how many people you slept with. Well, in fact, that's the opposite is happening. You're basically degrading yourself. And I'm not just saying because think about a prostitute. They get paid for to have sex and they are graded low enough. And imagine you who just do it for free. You are more lower than the prostitute. And that's pretty low if you ask me. And that's what is clearly happening. You just become miserable every single time, the more and more, well, for now's culture, bodies you collect. And number three, on both sides of the fence, you so focused on the love of or pursuit of money. Now, every single time you watch a video, I'm just giving a reference. I'm not really here to attack anybody, but for Andrew Tate, right? We look at him and he's always like, get rich, get rich, get rich. But okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad to get rich, but if that's your sole goal, then to be honest, you're gonna be once you reach the top, spend all your money till death, and then kill yourself eventually. Because why? Sin is the wages of death, and you end up burning in hell because you wasted so much of time chasing something that was never gonna be there forever. And it's the same thing taught to the feminine side as well, that you don't need anybody and you can just get it yourself. Great, you can't do that. Good for you. But again, and you end up being lonely because no one wants to be around someone who's always like you know how this boss girl women are. See, the real thing is that most of us are already following this. In fact, I won't lie, before I came to Christianity, which is like a year and 4 months now, I was on the Tate movement. Yeah, I had the view that yes, men were more valuable or were more needed than women and they would just, whatever it is. But in fact, I would have to say that we are equal. According to scripture, we are equal, but have differences, different roles, and both sides of the fence is trying to teach us that that's not the case and getting us again confused as to what we really ought to do. And then you have the middle ground, where you have people that don't want to follow the feminine movement and don't want to follow the masculine movement, but also doesn't want to follow God, and then they just make their own path and become confused. And you have people who are taking hormones and steroids and chopping off their parts and They're a complete mess, and they only realize it a couple of years later after damage is already done. And then, you see, and then women on the other hand, they're meant to be helpers. Does that mean that they are made? No. The Bible is basically saying that men can't do this life alone, and they need someone there to help them, actually. In fact, that should be a good thing for the woman, and the men should be saying, "What? Are you trying to say I'm messed up?" Yeah, guys, we are. You need a partner, just accept it. Same goes for the woman. You cannot do this alone. You need a partner as well. A lot of people who are lonely are miserable. A lot of people with many bodies are also miserable. Yeah, they're hiding it deep down with the partying, the cars, and money and everything. But eventually, at 2 a.m. in the morning, they're sitting there holding their head and like, what am I doing with my life? Anyways, that was the discussion table episode 4, I think. I want to hear you guys' thoughts. Eventually, I want to do a podcast so that I can interact with you guys as I'm making the video because I just really, really want to interact with you guys. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. Peace out.